Facts are a real problem for liberals, especially for New York liberal Leticia James, where this one drove her mad. Oops, she tried coming out against the Laiken Riley Act. What a slob. Welcome to John Mike Keene. This is first law passed under the Trump administration. It's incredible. Here's the article. This is from AM New York. AG Leticia James urges Senate to reject Laiken Riley Act, citing threats to due process and public safety. There she is. Whole lot of woman, whole lot of wrong. State Attorney General Leticia James is calling on U.S. senators to reject the S5 Laiken Riley Act, which seeks to expand federal detention of undocumented migrants accused but not convicted of theft-related crimes. This would have prevented the Laiken Riley murder, which is why it's named after her. In a letter signed by 43 elected officials and clergy members, they're always using the church, from across the country, James told Senate members that the bill, quote, goes against our fundamental values and will undermine rather than promote public safety. Fundamental values of what? Not prosecuting crime of illegals. The legislation was named for Laiken Riley, a 22-year-old University of Georgia nursing student who was murdered in February 2024 by Jose Ibarra, a Venezuelan national who faced a prior shoplifting charge while in the U.S. unlawfully. And that's the kind of guy that Leticia James wants to save. Ibarra was sentenced to life in prison without a possibility of parole for Riley's murder. But now you go, well, what did we learn from this? How do we apply this to the future? Supporters of the bill, which passed the House this week, maintained that if Ibarra had been detained for the shoplifting charge, Riley would still be alive. But James said Riley's tragic murder should not lead to what she called a harmful proposal. You know, what about the harm to American citizens? The requirement of federal detention for any undocumented person arrested for accused of, quote, any burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting offense before a conviction would run counter to the values of fairness and due process, James urged in the letter. Remember, this is Leticia James that went after Trump, said she was going to take his buildings and take his property. That's what she's obsessed with. But she says anyone accused of any burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting offense that was in federal detention, she said that goes against our values. Who's she speaking for? She's stuck in last year. Trump won. Long-term residents, minors, and dreamers, people brought to the U.S. as children by undocumented parents, could be swept up in detentions that Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement, ICE, would likely lack the capacity to handle. She said, well, that means we have to hire more ICE agents. That's her first thing. This is why they do catch and release. It's purely her decision. They're not going to get swept up in detentions under Leticia James. She lets them all go. Quote, the very linchpin of our criminal justice system is innocence until proven guilty. This doesn't say that they'll be proven guilty. And this law would prevent the proper administration of justice by sweeping people into immigration detention before their cases can be tried and heard. If they're immigrants, they shouldn't be here. They should go into an immigrant detention center. James said she's especially concerned about the potential for domestic abusers to weaponize the law. She said it is common for those accused of domestic violence to falsely accuse the victim of theft. Oh my gosh. This is a huge reveal of how New York works. If you're accused of domestic violence, the way that you cover yourself is to falsely accuse the other victim of theft. That's insane. We can't get them on domestic violence, but we can get them if we accuse them of theft, resulting in the arrest of both parties. In these situations, the threat of ICE detention would become another tool of control, said James. She is crazy. This is insane. How is this even legal? Anyways, I've got news for Leticia James in her effort to stop Laiken Riley. Watch this. This from The Hill. Senate passes Laiken Riley Act in first move after Trump inauguration. This was yesterday when Trump got, as soon as he got inaugurated, they knew they had the will to push this one through. And Leticia James has going mad. No, you can't prosecute them. The Senate on Monday passed the Laiken Riley Act, making the immigration-related bill the first piece of legislation to make it through the upper chamber of the new Congress and putting it a step closer to being signed into law by President Trump. Senators voted 64 to 35 on the bill. 12 Democrats voted with every Republican. Guys, that's a huge change. Democrats, just as a bloc, would never support Republican bills. It's amazing that 12 Democrats came over and are united behind Trump, behind his agenda to bring back law and order, to start prosecuting illegal aliens. This is amazing news, guys. The legislation, which mandates the federal detention of immigrants without legal status who are accused of theft and burglary, among other things, was a priority for Republicans after the immigration emerged as a signature issue for Trump and an effective cudgel against Democrats in November. Quote, this legislation will assure that illegal aliens who steal or assault a law enforcement officer are detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement instead of being allowed out in the United States. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said, but Leticia James is going, what are we going to do? Look at this, is the biggest one. If they assault a law enforcement officer. Now, that's the big charge against the J6ers, that there's a few of them. How dare you commute the sentence, Trump, and pardon someone who assaulted a law enforcement officer? And here's Leticia James saying, if you're an illegal immigrant, I want to protect your ability to assault a law enforcement officer. It is wrong. It is immoral. It sets a bad precedent to detain you. Now, this is going to be interesting. The Democrats who voted for in the affirmative include, look for these people who have pressure on them in the next election. Senator John Fetterman, Ruben Gallego of Arizona, Maggie Hassan, New Hampshire, Mark Kelly of Arizona, that's two from Arizona, John Ossoff, Georgia, Raphael Warnock, Georgia. This is the South. They know Trump is strong. Gary Peters, Michigan, Jackie Rosen, Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, Jean Shaheen, New Hampshire, Elisa Slotkin, Michigan, and Mark Warner, Virginia. Well, this is incredible news. This drives Leticia James mad, puts her in tears that justice is coming by law. She has to support this law or she'll be in breach. And so this is good news, guys. Justice is coming. Trump is turning this thing around. Culture is changing. The Leticia Jameses of the world are becoming a thing of the past. I'm John Mike Keene.